Hello, and welcome to the Live and Invest Overseas podcast. I am Kat Kalashian. I am based in Paris, France, and with me today is Con Murphy, based in Ireland. And we're here today to talk a little bit about Spain. We have a great love of Spain. I personally love Barcelona. It's probably my second favorite city in the world. And Spanish real estate is a huge opportunity, especially right now with the euro-dollar parity. It is a historical time to be a dollar holder here in Europe. It won't last long, but hopefully it will last for a few more months. Basically, what that means is your dollars go much farther in Europe than they used to. You might lose out. You might have lost out had you bought, a few years ago when the exchange rate was euro 30 to a dollar. Then you're spending quite a bit more in dollar terms than you are in euro terms. Nowadays, you're spending exactly the same amount of dollars as you are in euros. And you might actually, there was one day, I think last week, where it was actually 99 cents to the euro. So you're actually saving a bit of money, which is unheard of. Anyhow, that's all a little bit of background. But what we need to understand is the fundamentals of how to invest in Spanish real estate. What does that mean? What are the big hurdles to get through? Any potential pitfalls that we can avoid? And here to explain all of that to us is our in-house real estate property expert, who is the editor of our free weekly overseas property alert. Con, please let us know all about real estate in Spain.
Thanks very much, Kat. Delighted to be here. Well, Spain was the original expat destination in Europe. My mum, 50-something years ago, went on vacation there when she had just left university. And it's where everyone has gone for 5 decades. English tourists, Irish tourists and expats, mainland Europeans. It seems to have consistently, for all this time, been the first choice for all Europeans. And now increasingly more Americans and even people from further afield are choosing Spain as their vacation or retirement destinations. To give you some kind of an idea, Spain has 47 million people and it gets 60 million tourists a year, which is huge. 60 million overnight tourists. These aren't cruise ship tourists. The reasons are it's got some of the best weather in the world. It offers a lower, back then it was extremely low, but now it's a lower cost of living than most elsewhere in Europe. There's a rich, laid-back, welcoming culture. There are great living options for retirees, remote workers, young families, and even party lovers, if that's your thing. I mean, in Spain, there's towns for everyone and places for everyone in Spain. Property is cheaper than most parts of Europe, like I mentioned, and property outside major cities and inland can be great value, really stunning value sometimes. Spain's real estate, because so much of it was foreign-owned and expat-owned and investment directed. It really suffered badly in the 2008 property crash, and it took about a decade for the Spanish real estate market to recover, but it has, and it's come back strong now, and it's still the popular destination it always has been. Right, I suppose we jump straight into the Spanish property buying process. First off, as usual, you've got to decide your budget and the lifestyle you want to enjoy. Obviously, if you want beachfront property, if you want ocean, you need to be on the coast. And how much you want to spend, it varies from location to location considerably. The other things to consider, if you want to buy a second-hand property and the issues that can come with that, or if you want to buy a new build or off-plan. There are advantages to either option. If you want a detailed description of the pros and cons of buying off-plan, you can go to the Overseas Property Alert website and you can see my article on the pros and cons of buying off plan. So once you've decided on the property you want, you make an offer on that property. Simple. If the offer is accepted, you sign a reservation agreement and you make a small deposit between 3,000 and 12,000 euros, about 10,000 euros into escrow with your lawyer or the realtor. And that takes the property off the market for 30 days while you do your due diligence. Your lawyer then has a month to conduct a full title search in the property, and he has to pay particular attention to who owns it, whether there are any mortgages or liens on the property, and whether the planning permission has been granted for the property, and if the property, once it was built, was registered with the town or the local municipality. Once the lawyer is satisfied, you can sign a purchase agreement. And at this stage, you pay it depends, a 10 to 20% down payment minus the initial reservation deposit you paid. At this stage, you're locked in. Your deposit is generally non-refundable. But if the seller wants to back out of the deal after you've made the official down payment, he's got to pay you twice the payment you made. So he will take a hit if he tries to back out. So it's fairly legally binding at that stage. When you're closing the deal, you need to sign the title deed, which is called excuse my Spanish, escritura de compraventa, in front of a notary public. You then pay the rest of the purchase price and the other closing costs. You can have your lawyer do this for you if you're not in country at the time. I generally like going myself, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen. The notary then delivers the signed title deed to the land registry, and the new deed is issued several months later. There's no way of speeding it up. So that's the general steps to buying property. But the background information you'll need is you need what's called an NIE. It's to buy property in Spain. It's basically a foreigner identification number or foreigner tax number. You apply for this in person at your closest Spanish embassy, and you can start this process before you even reach Spain or even looking at property. It's good to get this done beforehand. Once you've bought the property, you must also register your ownership at the local town hall so they know who owns what where. Other things to consider, Kat just mentioned there, very important one at the moment is the exchange rate. The US dollar hasn't been this strong in 20 years. So now is an excellent time. You can get a 16 or 17% discount on the prices you would have paid last year because the US dollar is so strong. Other things to consider are closing costs in Spain are between about 11 and 14%, which includes a transfer tax. This transfer tax varies by region from about 6.5% to 10%. Notary fees are about 0.5%. There's a registration fee of about 0.4%. And legal fees of about 1% plus sales tax. If it's applicable, sales tax is which is called VAT or VAT in Europe, is charged on new builds, new constructions, but this reduces the stamp duty down to 1.5%. So it's a bit of a trade-off there. Things to be very aware of in Spain is if you're a non-resident in Spain, the only taxes you pay in Spain are on the income that you earn in Spain. But if you live in Spain for more than 183 days a year, you become tax resident. Other triggers to tax residency include your principal business, your principal residence, or your spouse and family living in Spain or being resident in Spain. Property taxes are referred to as the IBI. They're paid to the local council. We won't go into too much detail with the Spanish tax system. It is very complicated and detailed, and I will do a separate video on this, but just to give you a general idea. If you aren't a Spanish tax resident and you don't rent out your property, you'll be assessed a property tax at a rate of 1.1% of the local council valuation multiplied by the European non-resident tax rate of 24%. Basically, it boils down to you will pay about 264 euros per 100,000 euros value on your property. So it's very small. I mean, if you're a $300,000 property, you'll pay about 800 euros a year. So it's there, but it's not that much. If you rent out your property, you'll pay a tax rate of 24% on your income after expenses if you're a non-EU citizen, and you'll only pay 19% if you're an EU citizen. If you buy the development, obviously you'll have to pay HOI fees. So as I said, we'll go into Spanish tax and income tax and the other implications in more detail in a separate video. Or you can check out my article on Spanish real estate on the Overseas Property Alert website. We've got risks associated with buying property in Spain. Title is solid in Spain. There is no risk if you go about it properly. Obviously, if you're reckless, there are dangers. The main risk of buying property in Spain is that you buy property that's not correctly registered with the lands department. This is a major issue. I responded to this to a client of mine recently enough. If you don't register your property, or if the land your house is built on isn't properly zoned, or you haven't registered it properly with the municipality, and you build it or you buy a house that's been built on unregistered land, the local authority won't connect you up to utilities. That means you won't be eligible to be connected to power, water, sewage. The other ones there that are run by the municipality, you won't be connected. This causes huge problems. You can take an awful lot of time and money to fix it. Some people sometimes it can't be fixed. Some people are then forced to either set up an off-grid system with solar power and rainwater collection or all that, or they can go through the process of having water tanked in and paying for water tanks to be delivered, and it's just a mess. So as with always and everywhere, always make sure your lawyer does a full property search. It is well worth the money you pay them to avoid problems like this. If you're buying off plan, you must ensure the developer provides a bank guarantee against each stage payment you make. This means if the developer goes bust or there's delays or there's issues, you've got a guarantee to get your money back. It removes the risk of buying off plan, and I like this. It's a great facility, and it's a great benefit you get from the banks here. Not all countries provide that, and not all banks provide this option. It takes a lot of the risk out of buying off plan, and it's a great idea. The other thing to be aware of is property surveys. There are 3 types of property surveys that can be done in Spain. They're called condition reports, building surveys, and structural reports. Condition reports are the lightest review, and building surveys are more serious, and structural reports are the full engineer's breakdown of the property. I would always, if you're buying a second-hand property, get a survey done before you sign off on the purchase. Structural reports are more complicated, and they're only really required for old buildings, strange construction methods, unusual alterations, or if the property is in a very dilapidated state. It'll cost a lot more than the usual ones. But if you need to be sure, get a structural report, not a condition report or a building survey. All right, financial considerations. When you're buying property in Spain, mortgages are available to non-residents. The mortgage rates are very competitive compared to Europe. I know current mortgage rates are inching up in Europe at the moment, as they are everywhere, but you can get mortgages rates starting at about 2.5% up to about 3% at the moment. Non-residents mortgages are capped at about 60 to 70% loan to value, while residents can get up to an 80% loan to value mortgage. So there are advantages of being resident. The other thing to be aware of is you can only get a mortgage up until you're 75 years of age, and that's a maximum. They really don't want retirees or people getting long mortgages if they're a little more senior. If you are getting a mortgage in Spain, you should always get a mortgage broker. They'll be able to find the banks that are best suited for your situation. They'll get you the best deals and the best rates. If you are more senior, and you want a longer mortgage in Spain, you'll have to find someone to go guarantor on the mortgage with you. It might seem a bit strange, even if you're very financially secure yourself, to need a guarantor, but it's just the process you need to go through. Oftentimes it can be, especially if you've got children, and especially if you're intending on leaving some of your estate to particular children, to get one of your children to go guarantor, it can offer estate planning and tax advantages if they're currently an owner. When you do pass away, it makes the whole estate transfer easier. So it's something to consider. You can get a guarantee from one of your children. Mortgage fees from the bank, the arrangements fees will cost you about 2 to 4%, which in itself is a significant consideration if you're going for a big mortgage. That can be a chunk. So visas. Westerners can stay in Spain for up to 90 days out of every 180 days without a visa. Americans, Canadians, Brits, anyone like that. If you want to stay longer, you must apply for a visa in your country of residence. You can't just rock up and then decide you're going to stay. The lucrative non-stay visa is available to anyone who can show passive income of at least 400% of the IPREM value per year. For 2022, that equates to 2,316 euros per month, or 27,793 euros per year. This inches up fractionally every year. The good news for Americans coming is that in 2022, it's a lot cheaper to qualify than it was last year when the euro was much stronger, if you're coming from the States. If you have a spouse or children under 18 joining you on your non-lucrative non-stay visa, you need an additional 579 euros in income per month per person. So if you've got a wife and kids, that's 579 times 2 added to your 2,316. So it's just be aware that you can cover it, and that shouldn't be a problem for many. The visa doesn't allow you to work in Spain, but can lead to permanent residency after 5 years if you renew it correctly. To renew it, you must spend 183 days per year in Spain. which makes you tax resident. And this is very important. Taxes are complicated and can be high in Spain if you don't deal with it properly. See my video on Spanish tax and Spanish income tax for more detail on that. You can there is a Spanish investment visa. Anyone who invests 500,000 euros in Spanish real estate is eligible for permanent residency, quick permanent residency. Foreign property ownership is very common in Spain. About 12% of all property transactions in Spain are by foreigners, and over 20% of buyers in popular coastal and resort areas are foreigners. So foreigners and expats are 20% in most of the places you'll be. It's quite something. The next bit of advice is realtors. Like anywhere, the quality and professionalism of realtors in Spain varies hugely. There's no requirement for realtors to be members of professional bodies like the AIPP. This can make it harder to seek help in the event you have an issue with your realtor if they're not a member of the regulatory body. Many realtors outside the Costa del Sol don't speak English, but if you're serious about a property, they can generally find someone that'll translate for them. And it's important because there's nuances that you will need to be aware of. Some realtors charge both the buyer and the seller between 3 and 5% for handling the process, so you need to be aware. It's more common in certain areas than others. I was in the Costa de la Luz down in Andalusia there in May, and it was somewhat common. I know that in other areas it doesn't happen at all. So you'll pay usually between 3 and 5% either to the seller will pay 3.5% either to the realtor, and sometimes the buyer will also have to pay a premium on top of the buyer's premium. So make sure you know beforehand who's paying what. The legalities of buying property in Spain. Anyone can own property in Spain. There's no restrictions on foreign ownership. You will, as I mentioned before, for many reasons, need a local lawyer to conduct a full title search and confirm the property has its first license of occupation, and it's registered, and all the boundaries are correct. The usual fee is about 1%, the lawyer's fee. And the other thing to be aware of, whereas sometimes I mentioned that by holding your property, your foreign real estate in an offshore structure can be a way of avoiding stamp duty when you sell it onwards. But when you sell if you hold your property in a Nevis company, you can avoid stamp duty in some countries like Belize by just selling the shares in the Nevis holding company. It's illegal to do that in Spain. So it is not worth your while to try and do so. You won't legally avoid stamp duty by doing that, so don't try. So there we have it. That's the process and some of the pitfalls of looking for and buying real estate in Spain. Don't get me wrong, it is an amazing country. It is a mecca for expats. It continues to top the leaderboard in retirement destinations in Europe. It's very much worth checking out. It's a big country and a vast array of real estate for you to check out and lifestyles to enjoy. So that's my report on Spanish real estate.
Great. Thank you so much, Con. So in fact, it's interesting timing because we recently hosted our Live and Invest in Spain event. And of course, real estate is a large part of what we talk about. And we got many questions about real estate, but almost all of them were to do with the taxes and who pays what, which you gave a great rundown of. But so I did want to draw out the tax issue is very complicated. We don't need to get into too many details about it. But here in Europe, property taxes are often divided into different types. And so that was something that people were very curious about when we were talking about this for Spain for the event recently. And so the issue is basically, why are there different kinds of taxes? How do you pay them? Are they paid separately? Are they lumped together? How does that work? Do you have any insights there?
Yeah, well, just like in the States, well, in the US, with your income tax, you've got your federal and state taxes. And it varies, just like in the States, the state or the region you're in have got different levels of taxes. And that's generally more applicable to the income taxes, but it changes by region, and the amounts change, and there are sometimes tax write-offs in certain states that you don't get in others. So it's state by state. So that's why I even stayed away from going into detail there, because it changes quite a bit between districts. And I can give you advice for Andalusia that won't be valid even a few hundred miles away in the next
Right.
region. So maybe that's when we should take the deep dive into the taxes. I'll give a little bit of information now, and it'll just confuse people, or they'll take that
Yeah,
as being
absolutely.
universal.
Yeah. Covering too little is worse than covering none at all.
No.
But I do want to just put people's minds at ease, I guess, because when you hear that there are multiple levels of taxes, people sometimes panic a little bit because property taxes in the US especially can be quite hefty. They can be a large part of your annual budgeting for your your home expenses, and that's not the case in Europe. So when we say multiple taxes, spin out wildly thinking that it's going to be incredibly expensive, where in fact taxes, real estate taxes overseas are a fraction of what they are in the United States.
Certainly there. I mentioned there in the chat there that in Andalusia, the rate is about 267 euros per 100,000 euros value by the municipality, and the local government generally values your taxes at much lower than what it will actually sell for. So that's a municipal value, and then it's 200, just like less than 270 euros per 100,000. It's pocket change, really.
Exactly. It's a few $100 at most, and then this one little other. There's the IBI tax, which is a very small tax that basically is just municipal services. So you're on the grid, you're getting water, you're getting garbage collected, things like this. So those are just a few euros, really, and are added in with everything else. So don't panic about taxes in Spain. And we are going to circle back to this topic very shortly with Con. So if you are interested in hearing more about the taxes in Spain, please take a look at Con's very comprehensive article about taxes in Spain that we give a link to here in this video. And we're also going to plan another video shortly to talk about all these tax issues. So if you have any questions on taxes in Spain, please let us know in the comments, and we'll make sure to get them answered in our next video. In the meantime, we wish you a pleasant rest of your day and happy trails. Thanks for joining us today, Con.
Thanks, Kat, and thanks to everyone who joined us.
Happy trails.